Alright guys, today I'm going to talk about another RSK. This one is in 20 CV, and go ahead and also talk about the other RSKs that I've run, as well as my Deca. I do still have one more Deca to run, and I believe, just like I did for the first video, I have another 20 CV Mannix to test, so I believe I'm going to run the Mannix and the other Deca at the same time. But I figure I got this in a trade on what I believe to be the factory edge. It was at 17 degrees per side already. And the one that I did run at 17 degrees that did pretty good, when I dropped it to 15 degrees, the microstructure wasn't able to support the 15 degree secondary edge angle. And when I took it back to 17 degrees, it went right back to the prior performance. So we'll talk about the other RSKs, the Deca, and the sun just went behind a cloud, so it's going to be a little dark, and I'm not sure how much of the wind noise you guys can actually hear. So we'll go ahead and we'll get through that cutting. We'll talk about how this sharpened, how it did. Got a couple other things to talk about this, and the week's worth of use or so that I've put on it so far. So let's get that cutting out of the way and come back and get into what everybody wants to see. Now that we got that cutting out of the way, go ahead and start off with how this sharpened. Had no issues with it. I don't know what the hardness on this one is. I may at some point have the hardness checked and find out what it is. But what I can say is this does burr up fairly quick, but it isn't very hard to get rid of that burr. It does deburr pretty well on the diamond plates. It's the only thing I've sharpened it on so far, this particular one, and no problems removing the burr with stropping. So pretty straightforward, no problems with it. I don't know if I'm also going to drop this one to 15 degrees per side just to see what actually happens. I may. But one thing I am curious about, and now that this is mine and I can go ahead and do whatever with it, the QSP M390 that didn't do so well in the beginning Once I got about a dozen sharpenings or so on it, it actually did probably the best, if I'm remembering right, for any China M390 so far. Did 280 feet, 285 feet, something like that. So yeah, I understand most people aren't going to put a dozen edges on a knife in a short amount of time. They might not even put a dozen edges on a knife in their lifetime if you own a bunch of knives. But it is worth noting that this did improve quite a bit with a lot of sharpenings. So I believe I'm going to do the same thing with this one. I may also use this one to demonstrate, since I did measure it after the first sharpening, so I know as close as possible what it started as, but I may go ahead and do the height measurements in 3 different places. Go ahead and notch the spine. I'm going to go ahead and notch the spine of the blade with a little file or something so I know exactly where to measure each time. It can also demonstrate how much material you actually remove with each sharpening on a knife. So that is something I'm curious about. I probably will do the 15 degrees per side, and I am probably going to test this again somewhere around 10 edges and maybe around 15 edges or so, just to see if it does any better as more steel starts to get taken off the blade. So I will get into what everybody wants to know. What did this actually do? So on the third edge, 17 degrees per side, remember, 1500 grit, just like I sharpen everything else, 631 micron, 5 passes per side, 138 feet fine edge, 77 feet working edge, for a total of 215 feet. Definitely better than the M390 one did, and definitely better than the soft RSK did. So then I went ahead and sharpened it again. Same way, ran the verification test, and on that one I got 140 feet fine edge, 83 feet working edge, for a total of 223 feet. I wish it was better. I've said many times before, I do really like this particular knife. I find the blade shape to be very useful. It's not the end of the world, but that's why I want to keep sharpening it and see if it does improve at all. So how does this compare to some of the other RSKs that I did? Well, the soft one, that was 59.4, I believe was the hardest test on that one. That one only did 161 feet total. So not much more than the fine edge on this one. Then we have the M390 RSK, and that one did 204 feet total on the best test. And I don't remember whose was whose of the two orange ones that I ran, but I believe the one that did better of the two was the one that ended up going to BJ when his box of knives got lost in the mail, and that one did 240 feet, also at 17 degrees per side. That is the particular one that when I dropped the angle from 17 to 15, that the performance dropped off considerably. And then the 20 CV Deca, the one that I did run so far. This one did 262 feet. So almost 40 feet better than this one so far. And just like with some of the other ones, some of these knives that I do use and that I do let my wife and my kids use to open up boxes or whatever they have to do. Going back to the QSP, as I put more edges on some of these that didn't do so well to begin with, I will periodically retest them and see if they get any better. So, now that we got the testing covered, let's go ahead and talk about, I don't remember on the other ones, I'd have to go back and look, but seeing as how they missed the plunge grind on this one, I'm guessing that they didn't go far enough forward on the other ones either. So I am going to have to extend that choil right there, because it's only going to get worse from here. And another problem I had with it, as you can see, it is not wearing the Doug Ritter clip anymore. I do like the Doug Ritter clip. I do like the Doug Ritter clip. It doesn't have great tension, but I do like it. That's why this is on here, because even without great tension, the clip comes up to about here, only leaving, those of you that have one know, a very little bit of the knife out of the pocket. And the way my particular shorts are, that my job pays for, it still was not super easy to get out of my pocket. That's why you see that some of these have different lanyards on them. Now, I'm not a huge lanyard person. I don't particularly like them. However, the function supersedes whether or not I like them. I do like that they are easy to help me get out of my pocket at work. That is why most of the ones you see with lanyards are ones that I do use at work with gloves quite a bit of the time. So it just makes it that much easier to use them. Now, why isn't the Doug Ritter clip on here anymore? Well, the second day I had it, I don't think I had taken it out of my pocket even 15 times total. And I reached in, grabbed it, pulled it out of my pocket, and right above where the screw holes are, the entire clip snapped off. So I don't even have the Doug Ritter clip anymore. It broke second day. I know that the person I got this from in trade didn't carry this a ton, so not sure what happened with that. I may or may not replace it. I don't mind the Benchmade clip on it at all. Doesn't matter to me either way. And I'm not going to spoil it yet, but I do have something really cool coming up with this particular knife. So, gonna save that for another video. You might get a preview peek at it on my Instagram sometime in the next few days. But I definitely got something pretty cool coming up with this. I know I'm gonna like it. I think you guys might like it too. But if any of you have one of these, you got any comments about how it's done for you, how it's done in use? I know a couple people that I talk with regularly. One of them had one and got rid of it, not because of the design, but because it wasn't very good at staying sharp. I don't know if his was soft or what the problem was with it. But I'd be curious to hear what you guys' experience is, because I can tell you from the week's worth of use with this, the Deca, even though it only cut about 40 feet more, does a lot better in use than this RSK has so far for me. So that's all I have for this one. You got anything else you want to talk about? Anything else you want to add? Drop it down below. That's all I have for this one. As always, I appreciate your time, and thanks for watching.